Welcome to the More Than OK podcast, a wellbeing and family podcast about tips, strategies and stories on how to be more than okay. I'm Belinda Bray. I am a wife, a mum and a teacher, and I love learning about wellbeing, and I love taking what I've learnt into my everyday life, into my family and into my classroom, and I'm excited to bring you along the journey so you can be more than okay. Welcome to another episode of More Than Okay. Today we have a special guest, as always. We have Helen Wagner.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Helen is lots of things. She's a mum to 4, she's wife to 1, she does so many things. You seem to be everywhere. She does red frogs. She gets in there with schoolies events. So, and she's also part of our church community. So really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Belinda, for having me.
So the reason I've got you on here is because your children are just that little bit older than mine. So I'm here getting advice from you. This is a very sneaky way for me to get information out of you. Your children are a little bit older, and I remember having chats with you when your children were going through senior years and thinking, I need to remember what Helen said about helping students through that last little bit of year 12. So we're going to talk about some sort of things you did. But I would really love you to be able to articulate your thoughts around final results and finishing year 12 and all that pressure.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is that there's so much pressure already on the children. For me as their mum, I wanted to alleviate some of that anxiousness around the whole exam period and, hearing from other children how they get very worked up and it's a very stressful time. And I thought to myself, well, I don't want this to be a stressful time because they're not going to do their very best if they're stressed and they're tired and they're anxious. So I came up with a few little strategies that worked really well for our first daughter, and I carried that through with all 4 children, and it worked for me, and it actually became a really beautiful time, even though exams, are stressful, but it actually became a really lovely, calm and peaceful time for us as a family as well. So so we just sort of rolled with it each time one of the kids were in year 12. We did the same tactics and it worked.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So the new ATAR system has an exam block.
Yes.
So there's like a 4-week block and students come in and out and do their exams, and it can be intense. It is intense. I mean, it's that last bit of high school, and it is high stakes for some of those, like the science and math subjects, where 50%, like it can be really full on.
They can see the end is so close, and keeping them focused right till that very end is so important.
Yeah. So Helen and I, we had a research discussion the other day, coffee in the cafe, and I loved hearing Helen's tips. So I've printed them out in kind of a random order, and we're just going to, I feel like Oprah, I'm just going to ask you the questions.
Oprah. But just to let everyone know, what I did was, when Belinda asked me to speak today, was I sent the kids a message and I said, can you just tell me what I did or what I didn't do that helped you through exams? And so they just came flooding back with all of these great tips that Mum did during the exam block. So
that's great.
Yeah, so it's good to share them.
Research has gone into this. Now, as a precursor to this, you don't have to do all of these.
No.
Like, to do all of it is quite the commitment.
Even if just one works.
If just one of these little tips you go, oh, I'm going to do that, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And you're pretty practiced at this. So this is a complete list. So we just don't want anyone to feel as if you can't do this, that you're not doing a good job, because we all are. We're all trying to get through.
And as I said, this worked for me.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of these little tips might help. It doesn't cost anything. It helped me as a mum as well to calmly go through it with the kids, because, when I had the first one hit year 12, it was all brand new to me as well. So
Okay, so let's get into these.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one you said was to cancel
Yep.
everything
Yep.
during the exam
The
block.
diaries got wiped clean. Clean slate for that whole week or however long.
Okay.
So if they were involved in extracurricular activities, so mine did music and dancing and sport, and we just had to have a very clear slate so they didn't have to worry about being anywhere or doing anything else other than just concentrate on their studies for that week.
So you just released some of that pressure.
And on me too.
True. But I also appreciate that you gave them the freedom and the space. Because I think, and you made that decision. Like, I know that in my family, my kids will just keep pushing through. They all want to do it. So for this instance, my kids would need me to step in and say, "You're not doing that." And so I think that's
kids
good.
just want to be involved in everything and do everything. But I did make it very clear that we just need to have that week free of everything else, so that they just focus on their studies.
And it's only a short amount of time, and so
and
just
you know, for music it was only one lesson, and you know, for dancing it was one, maybe two, but it was okay. The world doesn't fall apart if they're not there for a week. So,
True.
Yeah.
Great. Next one. Keep the house quiet.
So
How
that
on
was
earth?
challenging. That was challenging with 4 kids in the house at all times. But we used to sit them all down and say, right, we've got exams coming up, you know, for whoever was in Year 12 at the time. And they all understood the importance of, you know, having a quiet and a calm house. So, you know, if the youngest one was starting to get a little bit rowdy or unsettled, you know, we'd go outside and have a walk, or we'd do something to just keep everything calm and quiet inside.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that you've involved the whole family in this, because
So
it is a whole
was-
family. We can't just, it's such high pressure that we kind of need to just gather round.
Yeah. So we would sit them all down and, you know, explain to them that this was coming up, and, you know, and it'll be their turn soon, and we will do the same thing. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, the next one goes right into this, which is to create a sense of calm at home.
Yes. So it was almost Zen quality in the house, which made me calm as well, because I use a lot of essential oils at home, and which the kids always used to make fun of me at times. However, they always come back to them, Mum, can you rub those oils, please? So I had some oils called Focus.
Okay.
So they were a blend of particular oils, and, you know, I'd go and I'd give their little temples a rub, or I might have had some burning in the house to keep them alert.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Great tip. And easy to do.
Easy to do.
It's not,
and it was nice. It did create a lovely, calm feeling in the house. Yeah.
Cool. All right, the next thing you said was that you have zones for study and rest and relaxing.
So it was important that they had their sleep zone completely different. And I know kids nowadays tend to not use their desks as often as they should, that they will lie in bed with their laptops, as my kids do. But I really needed their bedroom to be their sleeping zone. And so we have like a study nook outside the bedroom area with really, really good lighting. It's a beautiful long bench. They could spread all their books out there, not have to pack them up. And there they would study, and then bedroom they would sleep. So I needed to create that separate zone for them to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, great. So you've just mentioned sleep. So that is our next one, sleeping. Oh, I have a Year 12 student, and we go to bed before she does. And I sometimes worry that she's not getting enough sleep. But what did you do about sleep?
I used to worry about that as well. In fact, we would go to bed before they did as well, but I would set my alarm, and if they were still up, I would go out and I'd go, sweetheart, you're not taking anything in now, you're just looking at those books, and it's just, you know, it's just not going in. You need to go to bed. How about I get you up early in the morning and you're fresh?
Yeah, great.
You know, maybe go for a walk or a run or something, and get you know, get the adrenaline going and get you pumped up.
Yeah, good.
Because they were just sitting there, just staring at the books, and so look, even if they got 5 or 6 hours, you know, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
But I remember my uni days, and you'd pull
burn
an
the midnight
all-nighter,
oil.
and then it takes you days to recover.
Yeah.
During an exam block, they don't have that luxury, so they do need to make sure they're getting sleep.
Yeah.
Because their brains need
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
it. Okay. And this also links on to your study zones. No devices in bedrooms.
So, particularly during exam block, is to make sure that, you know, they didn't have a phone to wake them up, they didn't have messages coming in or the light. So I'd make them have their laptop and their phones out in that study area so they could just sleep without any interruptions.
I think that's really important.
I wish they'd do it all the time.
Well, we have a charging station, and so at night all the kids put their devices in this one spot and they stay there all night. And in the morning they wake up and they're like, I have all these notifications from all through the night. And I think, I'm really glad we've started that routine, because now it's just routine.
Yes.
But super important during exam block to not be interrupted, just to sleep it out.
Yeah.
And that blue light, let's limit the blue light. All right, love talking to Helen about nutrition and food.
Yes, that was my big thing all throughout the year, but especially during exam time. So I remember my husband saying to me one day, you know, gosh, you go to a lot of trouble with their lunches. Why can't you just do a Vegemite sandwich? I went, because that's what my mother gave me. And I really, I think the greatest gift I can give to them as a mum is to teach them how to eat well and to fuel their bodies with good food.
Yeah.
And so during exam time, it was even more important that they were fed well and nurtured through nutrition. So so I made a big point of cooking really well and putting lots of goodies in. Yeah. You know, study snacks and all that sort of thing that were brain food for them. Yeah.
And this actually is what started me thinking, I need Helen on the podcast, because I heard you talking about this. Yeah. And this is something Helen did for all of her kids. She had a study food tray.
I did.
I think you could start a business, and I will order them.
I'm a bit of an acts of service person.
Oh,
that's just who I am. So I love doing this for them. So I would go up and I'd get one of my beautiful silver trays out, and I'd make it pretty and make it lovely, even for my son. Bring out a beautiful tray, and my girls all love drinking tea, so I would make a pot of tea and put out one of my beautiful bone china cups and saucers. And
Don't
then
you
I
all
would
just want one of these?
I'd have all these little dishes of goodies. So there'd be, you know, a couple of different types of fruit. Then there would be maybe some cheese and crackers, and a little bowl of maybe some sweets, that whatever they liked. One of them loved red frogs, funny that, and one of them loved Mentos, so, you know, they'd get a few of those that they could have while they were studying. But always, you know, have a few different selections for them. Yeah. And so they would actually, without me saying you need to take a break, they actually would have that break. They would pour that cup of tea and they go, oh, what have you got here, Mum? And I'd try and, you know, change it up. So it was kind of a secretly little forced break for them.
Yeah, but also really memory making. Yeah. Like the fact that your children all said, oh, you have to tell them about the study tray.
They all remembered. That was their big thing. Oh, Mum, the study snacks. And for the girls, I used to, you know, I've got a little vase and I'd put something out of the garden and make it really nice for them. So they all remembered that. My son, I made it a little bit more masculine, so he didn't get the flower, but but they really loved it, and they do remember that one. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And another thing that you said went on the tray, and it's important for us to remember for our beautiful Year 12s, is positive affirmations.
Absolutely. I actually had a box of cards of positive affirmations, and if I didn't do a card, I would also write a little note. Yeah. And so they'd pick up the cookie and underneath would be, you know, something positive.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So I have, you'll all see there's an episode of More Than Okay that has my daughter Zara, who loves to make lunch boxes. She's been making me lunch boxes recently.
Aww.
So I open my lunchbox and there's always a little note.
That's beautiful.
So the other day the note was, be nice to the other kids.
Oh, I love that.
But it was just like such a, and so those
lovely?
little personal things can really lift you.
I've never received any in my lunchbox, unfortunately, but I would like to think that when my kids open theirs, because I used to do it in their lunchboxes as well, that it's a really nice little treat to receive.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
One day.
One day. Speaking of days, that was a nice little segue into this one. You have said that you let your kids have mental health days.
I don't know if I probably am allowed to mention that.
You can just mention it quietly.
They were sneaky little ones. There would be times, and they were normally at the end of a term when everyone was exhausted. Plus, we did a lot of extracurricular stuff as well. But if one of my children was doing something, we all had to go.
Yes.
So, because we live out of town, so it was one in, all in, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, if you times music lessons times 4, sport, dancing, you know, the girls did a couple of lots of dancing. So, I was to the minute every afternoon. And usually by the end of term, you could tell things were getting a little hairy. And I'd wake up in the morning to get them up for breakfast, and you just knew it's just not going to happen today, and I'm not going to push it. So, look, maybe one a term, maybe, you know, a couple a year. But when I felt that everyone needed that little break, I would say, right, today we're having a mental health day.
Okay.
And we're going to stay in our jammies.
Yep.
And we're going to just have a chill out day. Yeah.
Okay. And it's actually really important to recognise when kids are at the end of themselves, because I think we're in a culture now of just push through, and we need to rest.
We just needed to reset.
Yes.
And it only took a day.
That's right.
You know, it was lovely.
Yeah.
And everyone felt better at the end of it, and we were all raring to go. But I think I would have really pushed the boundaries had we have tried to wangle our way out that door that day.
Yeah. So, and when I was a new teacher, I remember having a few other teachers who were a few years ahead of me say, if you feel you're getting sick, take that day. And I'd think, really? I'm so busy, I don't have the time. But by doing that, you actually could stop yourself getting sick. And it's the same thing here. If you don't take that day, you could then be dealing with a big anxiety moment or...
And it's amazing what stress does to your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, it does redefine your immune system if you are very, very stressed. The immune system just goes...
Yep.
And the kids get sick, and one gets sick, they all get sick, and then I get sick.
Yep.
So that was very beneficial for us going through. And as I said, like, we didn't do it all the time, but when I felt we needed it, it worked well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Another thing you did was one-on-one time. We do this too. We love this sort of thing.
And it's difficult when you've got more than one child, because they all do crave that time with mum or dad. It was always with me. And I would just create a time. Look, even if it was a 20-minute walk, or we'd go and have a coffee, anything to just have just the two of us together, just to keep everything... the relationship on track, and the kids really need it, I found. Yeah.
We do that
they
too. We'll do like, we call it a daddy date or a mummy date.
Yeah.
And you just take them out for dinner or you do something that they would like to do. My son used to like playing golf, putt golf with me, but I'm really good at that. So he chooses other things.
Got a bit competitive.
You did. But if you just take that time and it builds memories, which I'm really big on, and connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's lovely.
Yeah.
And especially during that exam block, to just take a little bit of time out and just do one-on-one. How are you going? The eye contact, the just attention.
And I think, my husband worked away a lot, so, it was me sort of 90% of the time. And, when he was home, he would always make time for one-on-one. But for me at home, on my own, it was challenging at times, but it's very important because they crave it.
Yes.
And I didn't realise how much until they got older and told me.
That's good.
Yeah.
And just to out you even more, even in our chat the other day, you were saying how with one of your older girls who's moving and you actually carved out some one-on-one time for her there. So it doesn't ever stop, right?
No, it doesn't.
You can always be building into that relationship and it becomes more precious when they've moved out.
Absolutely.
So,
That's interesting. I'm really glad you picked up on that because
I learnt lots.
she was moving out of an apartment and it was stressful and we had a little girly night together.
Yeah.
So it was
filed
lovely.
that away.
Yeah,
and I'll remember that.
Yeah.
It was really,
Yeah.
I just thought it was just such a beautiful thing to do. So it's good. All right, this is our last one. And this is something we do too. So it just says go for a walk.
There's nothing like fresh air and just getting outside and clearing the head. And I have a little walk. It takes 20 minutes.
Yep.
And particularly during study time, and I felt that they just needed to get outside and get some fresh air, sunshine.
It's good.
Let's go for a walk.
And so another reset, another just a break and it's a really well-being thing. It's get some exercise, get some fresh air, look at the horizon, have just a bigger picture of things that are going on.
Yeah, and I think keeping your eye on the big picture rather than, what's that saying about don't sweat on the small stuff?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as long as they do their very best, they've done their best. If they've, you've watched them studying and they've been really focused, and go in there that day and I would say to them, I know you've worked hard. I know you've worked hard all term. I know you've studied hard. Whatever you come out with today will be your best, and I'm happy with that. So, and I think that they get very focused on. I had 3 that did OP and 1 that did ATAR. That at the end of the day, there are ways and means around getting to doing what you really, really want and what you're really passionate about. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good to remember coming into this exam block is that it's just a little part of your life. If it doesn't all go to plan, there are plans B, C, D, E, and the other plans might actually take you in a better direction.
Yes.
And so this is like the end of the beginning, kind of, I think.
And
Year
they
12.
think it's just that whole big pond. I go, there's plenty outside that pond when you leave school and when you go to university.
And when we can overshare again, you've got kids who are going to the US, you've had kids who've studied overseas, you've got kids doing all these amazing things. All these different pathways are before our kids. So year 12 may be big, but it's the end of school but the beginning of their adult life, which is so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So we just need to help them go through calmly and just enable them to do their best to do the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for coming in today, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
Great. If you have any questions, suggestions, feedback, we would love to hear it. You can email us at morethanok@highlands.qld.edu.au. See you next time.